Okay, we're going to look at some of the structural properties of this poem by Simon Armitage, Out of the Blue. The first thing you need to know is that actually this is a part of a much larger poem, and thus it's an extract. And that's the first thing worth noting. As with the other poems we've looked at, it is broken up into stanzas, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stanzas. And it's a regular construction, so each stanza has 4 lines. Okay? The other thing we should note about these lines is that they're quite short. Except for this line and these final 2 lines, which are a little bit longer. And when something in a poem is a little bit different than everything else around it, it's a way of bringing attention to it. So we should think about these 2 lines, line 20 and lines 27 and 28, because they are of different length, and it might be worthwhile to look at them to think about what it is that they are giving us right here. Anyway, the first word of the poem is actually the word you. And it's someone is addressing the reader or someone else, but they're addressing them directly. So that's the second person. The poem itself, in fact, I am waving, is a first person narrative. So the poem is written in the first person. It's a personal narrative. The next thing that might be worth noting is that the poem's also written in this present tense. You have picked me out through a distant shot of a building burning. You have noticed now that a white cotton shirt is twirling, turning. The white cotton shirt didn't twirl yesterday. It wasn't turned, but it's twirling right now. In addition to being written in the first person, the poem is written in the present tense. Further, there's a particular use of a verb, tense, throughout the poem that is repeated, and it is the present participle. Now, this formal grammatical phrase might not mean anything to you, but when you look through the poem, you can identify these everywhere. So I'll just read them out. Building, burning, twirling, turning, waving, 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 saving, watching, watching, washing, bullying, driving, oops, trying, trying, flying, leaving, diving, appalling, appalling, windmilling, wheeling, spiraling, falling, believing, believing, breathing, tiring, tiring, wailing, firing, sagging, failing, flagging. When you read through all of the present participles, you notice that they're really easy to rhyme. They give the poem a certain rhythm. I noticed when I read those out to myself right then, there's a kind of rhythm that those words give, and a sense of a feeling. So some people think that the personal feeling of the poem comes from the first person narrative, but from the present tense and the present participle, there's a sense of vividness, like this is happening just now, right in front of us. There's an urgency, which fits in with the theme of the poem. There is an immediacy. And some have argued that, especially towards the end of the poem, an increasing sense of desperation. Whether that's true or not is something that you, I guess, have to decide. The other thing that people think is that all these short lines are kind of like someone almost gasping for breath. I don't know how much I'd buy that personally, but I will note that the three longer lines do have something going on in them. Let's look at this. Let's look at the one in line 20. The depth is appalling that others like me. And here's line 20 that's longer than the rest. Should be windmilling, wheeling, spiraling, falling. There's a real sense of someone almost spinning out of control. That falling I really hear in that line 20. But if we look at the last two lines, that last couplet, I wonder if we could call it a couplet because of that rhyme. My arm is numb and my nerves are sagging. Do you see me, my love? I am failing, flagging. Well, it certainly rhymes, so that would satisfy that aspect of a couplet. And there is a sense of finality that comes here that we should note. Curious also isn't this a question? And there's no question mark. I wonder, again, that's a structural issue. I'm trying to look and identify, at first, just technical aspects of this poem.